In June 2009, Air France Flight 447 embarked on a routine journey from Rio de Janeiro to Paris, operated by an Airbus A330 designed for long-haul flights. However, this seemingly ordinary flight took a tragic turn due to inconsistent airspeed indications, leading to a fatal stall and subsequent crash into the mid-Atlantic Ocean. All 228 passengers and crew on board lost their lives in this devastating event, leaving a profound impact on the aviation industry. Hello and welcome to our latest video. In today's episode, we go back in time to explore the events surrounding Air France 447. Before we begin, we invite you to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Subscribing ensures that you stay updated with all our future exciting content. To our loyal viewers, we're thrilled to have you here once again, and a warm welcome to all our returning subscribers. Now let's go right into the video. Part 1. The Crew and Departure. It was a mellow evening in Rio de Janeiro as the crew of Air France Flight 447 gathered at the airport. The anticipation of the return journey to Paris lingered in the air as they finalized their pre-flight preparations. The crew composition was standard for a long-haul flight, comprising a captain, 2 first officers, and an extra pilot to ensure adequate rest during the extended flight duration. The captain, a seasoned aviator with over 11,000 hours of flight experience, instilled confidence in the team. His leadership skills and familiarity with the Airbus A330, the aircraft they would be operating, were assets that the crew relied on. The 2 first officers brought a blend of experience and youthful energy to the cockpit, forming a cohesive team ready to tackle any challenges. As they reviewed the weather forecasts, flight plans, and notices to airmen, NOTAMs, the crew discussed the intricacies of the upcoming journey. The scheduled departure time at 8 p.m. local time meant that they would be flying through the night, a factor they considered in their planning. The circadian rhythm, which influences human alertness and performance, was discussed as they strategized for the overnight flight. Part 2. Departure and Early Flight. The departure of Air France Flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro marked the beginning of a routine journey back to Paris. The aircraft, an Airbus A330-203 in optimal working condition, taxied onto the runway under the guidance of the ground crew, ready to ascend into the night sky. As the engines roared to life and the aircraft took off, the crew transitioned into the operational phase of the flight. The cabin crew prepared for service, ensuring passenger comfort during the long journey ahead. In the cockpit, the pilots settled into their roles, with the captain overseeing the initial phases of the flight while the first officers managed navigation and systems. The transition from ground to air was seamless, with routine checklists and protocols guiding the crew's actions. Communication between the cockpit and cabin remained professional and focused, reflecting the crew's training and experience managing transcontinental flights. Standard procedures, including altitude adjustments, communication with air traffic control, and monitoring of aircraft systems, characterized the early hours of the flight. The crew maintained a vigilant stance, especially considering the expected challenges of flying through the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, later in the journey. The initial phases of a long-haul flight often set the tone for the remainder of the journey. Crew coordination, protocol adherence, and situational awareness were paramount. Little did they anticipate the critical events that would unfold as they approached the challenging weather zones ahead. Part 3. Encounter with the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ. As Air France Flight 447 progressed towards Paris, it encountered the formidable Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ. This geographical region, known for its unpredictable weather patterns and powerful thunderstorms, presented a significant challenge to the flight crew. The ITCZ is a convergence of trade winds from the northern and southern hemispheres, creating an area prone to convective activity and thunderstorm development. Pilots navigating this zone must be cautious and prepared for rapid weather changes, including turbulence and intense precipitation. The crew had briefed extensively on the potential hazards of crossing the ITCZ. They were aware of the vertical development of thunderstorms in this region, reaching altitudes well above typical cruising levels. This necessitated a keen focus on weather radar readings and real-time weather updates to make informed decisions during the flight. One of the key concerns when flying through the ITCZ is the presence of supercooled water droplets at high altitudes within thunderstorms. These droplets can lead to significant icing on aircraft surfaces, including critical components such as pitot probes. The pilots were equipped with information from safety bulletins regarding previous incidents of probe icing within the airline's fleet. This awareness underscored the importance of vigilance and proactive measures to mitigate the risks associated with ice accumulation on vital instruments. Navigating through the ITCZ required a combination of meteorological knowledge, avionics system understanding, and effective decision-making. The crew remained in constant communication with air traffic control and monitored weather conditions closely as they traversed this dynamic and challenging atmospheric zone. The encounter with the ITCZs would be a pivotal moment in the flight, setting the stage for the unfolding events that would test the crew's skills and the aircraft's resilience in adverse weather conditions. Part 4. Critical Moments and Unforeseen Challenges. As Air France Flight 447 pressed onward through the night sky, the pilots encountered a series of critical moments and unforeseen challenges that would ultimately lead to a tragic outcome. These pivotal events unfolded rapidly, testing the crew's training, decision-making, and response to system failures. At approximately 02:10 hours, the aircraft entered a region of convective activity within the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ. The weather radar on board indicated significant weather ahead, prompting the crew to evaluate their options for navigating around or through the developing storms. The first indications of trouble manifested as the pitot probes, essential for measuring airspeed accurately, began to malfunction due to ice crystal ingestion. The Airbus A330 relies heavily on precise airspeed data for its flight control systems, and the loss of reliable airspeed information initiated a chain of events that would challenge the crew's situational awareness and ability to maintain control of the aircraft. As the pitot probes became obstructed by ice, erroneous airspeed readings led to the disengagement of autopilot and auto-thrust systems, when the plane suddenly switched from automated flight to human control. It put a lot of stress on the flight crew, especially since they were flying through rough weather. The crew faced many ECAM, electronic centralized aircraft monitor, warnings and cockpit indications, indicating multiple system failures and the onset of stall conditions. The severe turbulence, unreliable airspeed indications, and loss of automated flight control presented an unprecedented challenge. Despite their training and experience, the crew was in a highly complex and high-stress scenario. The rapid onset of events left little time for deliberation, forcing the pilots to make split-second decisions amid escalating chaos in the cockpit. However, the combination of environmental factors, technical malfunctions, and human factors challenges culminated in a loss of situational awareness and a failure to recover from the impending stall condition. The aircraft's descent continued unabated, leading to a tragic outcome that would later be analyzed in detail during the accident investigation. Part 5. Escalating Crisis and Confusion. As the events unfolded, the escalating crisis aboard Air France Flight 447 plunged the cockpit into chaos and confusion. At approximately 02:10:05, the aircraft's autopilot disengaged due to conflicting airspeed indications caused by pitot tube icing. This began a series of critical failures that would challenge the crew's abilities and decision-making processes. The sudden disconnection of the autopilot was followed by a loss of reliable airspeed indications, a fundamental parameter essential for safe flight operations. This loss of crucial data plunged the crew into a high-stress situation, exacerbated by severe weather conditions in the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, known for its unpredictable and intense thunderstorms. As the aircraft encountered turbulence and entered regions of convective activity, the crew was bombarded with a cascade of warning messages and system failures. The cockpit environment turned frantic, with alarms blaring and conflicting information flooding the flight deck. The crew, comprising experienced pilots facing an unprecedented scenario, needed help comprehending the gravity of the situation and formulating a coherent plan of action. Part 6. Loss of situational awareness. Amidst the chaos and mounting challenges, the crew's situational awareness eroded rapidly. The lack of reliable airspeed data and the complexity of managing multiple system failures contributed to a breakdown in the crew's understanding of the aircraft's state. At approximately 11:10, the aircraft's stall warning system ceased functioning due to unreliable airspeed indications. This critical failure further obscured the crew's awareness of the impending stall condition. The absence of clear visual cues and accurate instrumentation made it increasingly difficult for the pilots to gauge the aircraft's performance. As the flight descended into turbulence-ridden airspace, the crew grappled with a growing sense of uncertainty and confusion. The dynamic nature of the emergency, compounded by the crew's cognitive overload, posed significant challenges to effective decision-making and timely corrective actions. Part 7. Desperate attempts to regain control. Faced with a rapidly deteriorating situation, the crew desperately attempted to regain control of the stricken aircraft. At approximately 2:11:30, the captain re-entered the cockpit, only to be greeted by a scene of utter chaos. Now descending at a high vertical speed, the aircraft exhibited erratic pitch attitudes and multiple system warnings. Working against time and mounting challenges, the crew initiated manual flying inputs to stabilize the aircraft. However, conflicting inputs from various instruments and persistent system failures hindered their progress. The crew's efforts to troubleshoot the situation were further complicated by the lack of clear communication channels and the overwhelming sensory overload in the cockpit. Despite their training and experience, the crew found themselves in an unprecedented and rapidly evolving crisis that tested their skills and resourcefulness to the limits. The situation's urgency underscored the critical need for effective teamwork, situational awareness, and rapid decision-making in high-stress aviation emergencies. Part 8. Communication breakdown and conflicting actions. The communication breakdown and conflicting actions exacerbated the already dire situation aboard Air France Flight 447. As the crew grappled with the unfolding crisis, coordination and clarity in communication became increasingly challenging. At around 2:12:10, the crew's attempts to troubleshoot the situation led to conflicting inputs and actions. The first officer reduced engine thrust to idle, contributing to a further decrease in altitude. Simultaneously, the relief pilot initiated pitch-down commands, causing the aircraft to descend faster. These conflicting actions highlighted the breakdown in coordination and decision-making within the cockpit. The escalating confusion and sensory overload further hampered effective communication among the crew members. The urgent need for decisive and synchronized actions to stabilize the aircraft clashed with the chaotic environment characterized by conflicting inputs, system failures, and sensory distractions. Part 9. Critical decision points and misinterpretations. As the crisis deepened, critical decision points and misinterpretations played a pivotal role in the outcome of the flight. At approximately 02:12:28, The aircraft's nose pitched to about 12 degrees above the horizon, leading to a temporary decrease in vertical speed. After a brief relief, the plane continued to descend. The crew misinterpreted the situation, believing they were at excessive speeds rather than stalling, leading to unsuccessful corrective attempts. Acting on the stall warning system frequently led to the crew's confusion about the aircraft's flight state. Despite the crew's attempts to manually control the aircraft and rectify the unfolding emergency, the combination of sensory illusions, system failures, and cognitive biases led to critical errors in judgment and response. The lack of clear situational awareness and accurate assessment of the flight parameters hindered the crew's ability to initiate appropriate recovery procedures. Part 10. Final Moments and Impact. The final moments of Air France Flight 447 were characterized by desperate attempts to avert disaster amid escalating chaos and system failures. As the aircraft descended rapidly towards the ocean surface, the crew's efforts to regain control proved futile in the face of overwhelming challenges. At approximately 02:14:28, the aircraft, unable to recover from the stall with conflicting control inputs, plummeted into the Atlantic Ocean at a steep angle and high vertical speed. The impact was catastrophic, resulting in the disintegration of the aircraft and the tragic loss of all 228 souls on board. The sequence of events leading to the tragic outcome of Flight 447 serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and unforgiving nature of aviation emergencies. It underscores the critical importance of training, situational awareness, effective communication, and rapid decision-making in mitigating crises and ensuring flight safety. Part 11. Post-Accident Response and Investigations. Following the devastating crash of Air France Flight 447, a series of post-accident responses and investigations were initiated to unravel the causes and lessons learned from this tragic event. The aviation community, regulatory bodies, and investigative agencies embarked on extensive efforts to understand the sequence of events and implement measures to prevent similar occurrences. Within hours of the aircraft's disappearance, control centers and aviation authorities began coordinating search and rescue operations. However, due to the vast expanse of the ocean and the complexities of underwater terrain, locating the wreckage and recovering crucial flight data recorders posed significant challenges. It wasn't until 2 days after the accident that the first floating debris was spotted, marking the beginning of an exhaustive search effort spanning 2 years. The wreckage, including the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, was eventually located on the seafloor at about 12,800 feet. Part 12. Lessons Learned and Safety Recommendations. The investigation into Air France Flight 447 led to a comprehensive analysis of the contributing factors and systemic issues that culminated in the tragic loss of the aircraft and all souls on board. The final report and subsequent safety recommendations provided invaluable insights into aviation safety practices and protocols. Key lessons from the incident highlighted the importance of pilot training, crew coordination, situational awareness, and response protocols during high-stress situations. The report emphasized the need for enhanced training programs, particularly in upset prevention and recovery techniques, high-altitude flying dynamics, and stall recognition and recovery procedures. Safety recommendations stemming from the investigation prompted regulatory changes and industry-wide initiatives to bolster flight safety standards. These included the development of standardized procedures for handling unreliable airspeed indications, enhancements to aircraft systems and sensors, and improvements in pilot training curricula. Remembering Flight 447 and honoring the victims. As we reflect on the untold story of Air France Flight 447, it's essential to honor the memories of the 228 individuals whose lives were tragically lost on that fateful flight. Their legacy serves as a poignant reminder of the continuous pursuit of safety and excellence in aviation. Beyond the horrific events of that night, the lasting influence of Flight 447 has shaped the evolution of aviation safety practices and fostered a culture of continual learning and improvement. Our utmost priority is the prevention of such catastrophes and the safety of all individuals involved in aviation. To achieve this, we conduct thorough investigations, implement strenuous training programs, and work together with the aviation industry. The lessons from Air France Flight 447 should lead us to a future where aviation continues to be a symbol of human tenacity, innovation, and steadfast dedication to safety.